friends. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Em and this is my weekly wrap up. And I think this is my first weekly wrap up of March because I wasn't feeling like filming last week, so I just kind of skipped it. Did just do a middle grade March wrap up where I just talked about the books I have read for middle grade March because I know middle grade is not everyone's jam, and I thought it might make more sense to have a separate video for those. So I'm just going to talk about the non-middle grade books I have read so far this month, and maybe we'll get into what I'm currently reading, though there's one book I can't talk about yet. So let's just dive in. Starting off, I read the third book in the Alana series by Tamora Pierce. I'll put up what the actual cover looks like. This is The Woman Who Rides Like a Man. I really liked pretty much the whole book. So Alana is officially a knight, and she is going off on her first adventures since the events that wrapped up the second book. I really wanted to give this 5 stars. However, there is a big old white savior complex in this book, so I took off a star for that. So I'm only giving it 4. Okay, so here's the thing. is there are people in this series who are coded like South Asian people from our world. And like South Asian people from, I guess, like the 1800s, like that style. And I just can't tell how problematic it is really what I'm struggling with. I think Pierce is trying really hard to not do a stereotype and to bring nuance to this representation. I just don't know how effective she is at doing that. However, I do really like the characters that she has written in this book. I really like what happens with Alana in this book. I think this book is really compulsively readable. I read this in one day. I was doing a bunch of chores. I had the audiobook and I just could not turn it off. I kept telling myself, okay, we're going to take a break at the end of this chapter, and then that chapter would end and I press play again and finished it in a day. And it was fun, and I don't know, I thought it brought up really good questions about power and that it matters who has the power and what happens when that person abuses their power. I just liked it so much. But the representation is an issue, and yeah, like I said, a big white savior complex with this. So that is a big old bummer. I did debate DNFing too, like in chapter 2, when I remembered or was reminded of what one of the plot points of this book was. But I also wanted to see how that resolved in the story. And I just don't know. I just don't know. I don't know if I need to do research and see if there are reviews from South Asian readers about this book and about this series and how that representation hits for people who are the inspiration for the people in this book, if that makes sense. But anyways, reading nostalgic childhood favorites is really tricky sometimes. Okay, after that, well, these are not in chronological order. I just jumped right in. Before that, I read The Dark Fantastic by Ebony Elizabeth Thomas. This is about race and representation in YA media. This specifically addresses, oh, now I have to remember, Hunger Games, BBC's Merlin, the show, Vampire Diaries, and Harry Potter. And I thought this was really interesting. This is the first work I've ever read that uses critical race theory. And that has been in the news and the media so much. And I had very little idea of what CRT actually is in person. And it was so interesting. And I'm so glad I finally read something that utilizes it. And I thought it was really disheartening to read, because Thomas Poles, when she's talking about the casting of Rue in the Hunger Games, or of Guinevere in Merlin, or of Bonnie Bennett in Vampire Diaries, and she'll have the Twitter comments from people about the casting, and reading all those really racist, horrible comments is so disheartening. It's just disheartening. So it's not a good time, but it was really interesting. It was really informative. It fell apart for me a little bit during the last chapter, which is also the Harry Potter chapter. Part of that is, I think, because Thomas admits herself that she was pretty ingrained in the online fandom for Harry Potter. 10, 15 years ago. And so she has a lot of nostalgia for it as well. And so it felt a little bit more biased than the rest of the book did. Even Vampire Diaries, which she admits she has a strong connection to, but I don't know, I felt like there were more blinders on in the way she talked about Harry Potter than there was for the other three shows and movies. No, are they all shows? Oh, I guess Hunger Games is a movie. Anyways, I also am I don't like Harry Potter. So that also probably played into my dislike of that chapter, is that I just don't care for Harry Potter at all. And I get a little upset when I have to talk about it or hear people talk about it. So it was probably a combination of those things. But I think if you are looking for a nerdy deep dive, this is a good one. I got a lot of value out of it. Maybe we'll say that, because I can't say I enjoyed it, but I got a lot of value out of it. Oh, and then the fun book I finished. Oh, I have nothing bad to say. I finished The Blood of the Chosen by Django Wexler. This is book 2 in the Burning Blade and Silver Eye. All right, I lied. I have one critique. I feel like we did not know what we were doing for a good chunk of this book. Probably until about here-ish. I feel like we did not know what we were doing. We were just going on an adventure, and it was a good time. I love these characters so much. There is a thing that happens to one of like the really prominent secondary characters at the end of book 1, and I loved where it put her in this book. That was so funny. It made it really, I think it kept it from, I could have gotten stagnant very easily, but I think because of that, it kept it really fun. We introduced a new character, kind of. I mean, she's in the first book, but she's not the way she is in the first book is not how she is in this book. We have 2 characters like that. So you really get to know her really well in this one. I liked that Maya and Geyer were thrown together even more in this book. And I wish I'd gotten a little bit of like Maya and Beck. I thought the start of their relationship in book 1 was really sweet, and then now that they're together, I feel like Wexler kind of forgot to further that relationship, and then every once in a while he'd remember. But man, oh man, the last like 125 pages of this book was so good. It was so good. It was a lot of action, a lot of stuff being revealed, and it was very exciting, and it was very compulsively readable, and I loved the ending. And you know what? If the ending is good, I will forgive so many things if the ending is good. So I am so excited to read the 3rd book and see what happens. I don't know. At the end of this book, I don't know how this is only a trilogy, because I feel like the thing that happened at the end of this book is not something that we can resolve in one book, but we shall see. I trust him. It'll be fine. And oh, there was another thing I was going to say. Dang it. It's gone. So sorry. Anyways, I am loving the series. It is such a good time. It is funny. It is, oh, I remember what I was going to say. Wexler writes some of the best fight scenes I think I've ever read in like high fantasy. Traditionally, I have a hard time following fight scenes just because there's so much going on, and I don't think they're always written very well, with a few exceptions. But I feel like Wexler is definitely one of those exceptions. He writes such a dynamic, exciting battle / fight scene. So I always have a good time during the battles. Those are kind of my favorite parts of these books. So that is the non-middle grade books I have read so far in March. Again, if you want to see the middle grade books, those I don't know if that video will go up before or after this one, but I will link it in the description whenever it exists. And then as for, man, why are words so hard today? As for what I am currently reading, there is one book that is a secret, so I'm not going to talk about it right now. And then the other book that I am currently reading is, Kingdom of Gods by N.K. Jemisin, which I talked about in a video from last week, which I will also link down below if you want to check that out. My feelings on the N.K. Jemisin have not changed. I'll just leave it at that. I did DNF the Lucy Cook book I was reading, not because it's not good, it just wasn't grabbing my attention. And I couldn't get the audiobook, and really, I've said this a bajillion times, the audiobooks are really saving me right now. So I think I am going to, what am I going to pick up next? All right, I think next I am going to start listening to Miss Moriarty, I presume on audio. And I've talked about this a bunch of times too. And I talk about it in the same video where I talk about the Kingdom of Gods. So if you want to know what this one is about, you can check out that video. But I think I'm going to start this one on audio, and then I need to start The Vanished Birds. I need to stop being intimidated and putting it off, and I just need to start this dang book. So this is the goal for the upcoming week. So hopefully when I do this next week, I will be able to update you on these two. And I actually think that is it for today. Yeah. All right. That's it for today. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you are having a good week, a good March, a good day. And if you want to leave an emoji down below, let's do a bird emoji, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay. Bye.